Ready? Okay, I'll call the Tuesday, January 26, 2021 Manhattan Area Technical College Board meeting to order.
We have one change to the agenda. There was an update, let's see, on page 2 under discussion of ends, update on the student loan default rate. We're going to move that to February. One of our staffers couldn't be here this evening. It's the only change I have to the agenda. We do need to have one brief executive session.
Are we doing that up front?
Yes, we're going to do it right away. So Wendy, I think you have the information to read.
Yes, if you're
Okay. So we do need a motion
yes,
to approve the calendar.
Yes, I move to approve the calendar,
Okay, properly
provided that the days are correct.
properly moved, right? Second.
I'll second.
Right, okay. Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay,
thank
motion
you.
carries.
Your next document is a draft of criterion 1 for the upcoming accreditation visit. We're not going to read it word by word tonight. I would hope you would take it with you. There's not a good way to summarize criterion 1. It's related to our mission, our purpose. It's the simplest one to do, but I would urge you at some point to go through it. We did have a group of faculty and staff at in-service go through each of the criterion. We've got a lot of feedback from them. We're using that to make revisions. Our next step is putting together the evidence in each of these. I'm working on criterion 1 and 2 and 5 to help Sarah. Sarah's working on 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are more in instruction, student services. 1 is mission, 2 is governance. So we're going to talk about that more in depth next month, because that's when they come for the visit, that's what they want to talk with you. Do you understand your role in governance, Senate, the faculty Senate role in governance, shared governance that we have with the academic committees, if you will. Criterion 5 is on planning, institutional effectiveness, resources, and we will cover that one in April. So in March, you're going to get criterion 3 and 4 from Sarah. That'll be a little bit lengthy to go over the student story. Again, academics, assessment, which many of you know is the bugaboo with most accreditation. So again, this one is pretty much a summary. The criteria have been slightly revised. We're under the new criteria, so you might pay attention to that as you read through it. I would urge you to, when you have a chance to read through it, if you have any comments or questions, please email them to Mary to share with me. And we've also had another set of eyes on this. Dr. Betty Stevens, former president of Highland Community College. She's retired, lives here in town. I met her when I joined Rotary, and we've used her the last couple of years of in-service. But to help us with accreditation, she has been a peer reviewer. So again, she's looked at what we've drafted. She'll continue to do that. And she's interacted with, especially with our faculty. And that's been a good choice for us to have to get that third set of eyes, a peer reviewer's opinion. The former president I worked for at Neosho, Brian Enbody, he's been a peer reviewer. He's also been a special investigator for the HLC. And so while I worked for him, I learned a lot more than I thought I knew about accreditation. So we've incorporated a lot of things I learned from Brian as we do this process. And again, a big change with it is trying to be forward-looking, okay? When the team was here in 2017, the team chair met with me, and I have the least amount of interaction with the HLC team when they're here of anybody. I get to meet them at the start. I have maybe a 15-minute session with the team leader, and then at the end, I get to hear them say, "We're done, see ya," because they don't tell you anything. They're going to talk to faculty, staff, students, community folks. They don't talk to me. In 2017, I'd been here about 1.5 years, and the team leader said, "I did not see your strategic plan." I said, "Yeah, it's because I don't like it." And we talked, and he understood where I was coming from. I was still getting to know everything, what we could do, so we could revise the strategic plan. So the next item on the agenda, it comes later. We're going to talk about the strategic plan, but what I want to point out to you is our strategic plan lines up with each of the HLC criteria. so that we're trying to keep everything aligned in what we chase in terms of data, projects. When it comes to your part with the policy governance manual, again, it's focusing on that ends and means. So we try to tighten up that alignment and try not to get distracted chasing other puppy dog tails.
Are they physically gonna be here?
We don't know yet. It may be virtual. When we know, you'll know.
Okay.
But they will, no matter what, they will have a session with you. None of us can be in here with you. Mary's only for support, and they'll ask her to step out of the room. So that's why I want to make sure we get you up to speed. You have a chance to read through some things, ask some questions. They're going to focus on, do you understand your role? Do you understand my role? Do you understand the role of shared governance? And again, that's where the faculty controlled curriculum, assessment, professional development, the faculty senate. Forget anything?
That's it.
They're going to ask, our finances. So one of the key things tied with this, which Carmela will talk about it a little bit later, is the composite financial index. So this, whoever they send for MHLC, they're going to be asking you because they want to know that you got this stuff under control. You know what your role is, what you're supposed to monitor, and also where you don't go. Okay. The biggest trick is, depending on who's on the team, there are very few just technical colleges in the Higher Learning Commission territory. It's universities, senior colleges, four-year colleges, and community colleges. So one of the key things I had to do in 2017, and I'll do again this year, is to remind them when they get here, we're a tech college. This is our mission. Because sometimes they get chasing, where's your research, your gen ed, all this. Our gen ed is limited to what's required for our degrees. We're a tech college. And I try to keep them focused so that they're asking the right questions to us. Okay. Any questions?
I did see one thing in here and I'm just gonna ask.
Makes sense.
Where's our other 13% of our student profile? Where do they come from? It says that I have 50% under the age of 20, 37 between 20 and 29. That leaves 13% hanging out there. Are they those non-traditional 30-year-olds or,
What page are you on?
I found it.
I don't know,
When you get to auto body guy.
page 14,
The auto body guy, yeah.
page 14 of our
Of
packet.
your packet.
Yeah. I'm just curious,
Yeah.
Let me look at that. So
Yeah,
it's like it was a thought that didn't finish.
yeah.
Which is why we're still drafting.
Yes, which is why we're still in the draft.
Mhm.
So what this is notes from the work sessions we did it in service
Sure.
with faculty. And so thank you, because I'm gonna highlight it
get
and we're
it
gonna
back.
finish that thought.
Well, I'm going, okay, where's our other 13% coming from?
Nope,
Yeah,
this
well-
is why not 3 people write
And the
this.
other 13% are older than 29,
Yeah,
but yeah, I need to
that,
finish.
you
that.
know,
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
they didn't.
good
It's
content.
on me because I'm the one working on this.
Yeah, yep, I found it.
sorry.
No, that's exactly what we need.
Yes.
Because we look at this so much.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you just read right through it.
Your brain already finishes.
Page 14 of the whole file. Before 1.A.5.
Before that.
Where our students come
Right
from
before
has
the paragraph
stayed
right
pretty
before it.
steady over the
Mhm.
years. We get about 55 to 60% from Riley County, about 15% Potawatomi, 15% Gary. We're gonna start seeing changes with that as we do
Right.
more of the outreach.
They're older than. Couple more small.
If I remember right, Kim said our average student age is 27.
Really?
23-ish, 24-ish. It's not as high as 27, I don't think. Not if
Well, I can
50%
see
of the students
that
is less than 20.
with
over
guys,
the 20s.
folks coming out of the military,
Yeah.
coming out at 22, 23,
Mhm.
35.
30.
I'm not gonna say how old I was.
Thank you.
But we'll.
Sure.
And then again,
See
as you
more of
read
that.
this, you see some of those things, don't hesitate to shoot us an email. 'Cause each draft gets better. sure how much you know on accreditation. We'll be glad to tell you all you want to know, what you want to know. We have to come through it so that we are approved to be able to administer federal financial aid.
Right.
And the Higher Learning Commission is the largest accreditation agency in the country. They do KU, K-State, they do almost all of the northern tier states plus some southern states. It's huge. I don't anticipate an issue. Most institutions get written up to improve on assessment. The secondary, they usually get written up on strategic planning. We've become changed the culture about accreditation the last several years to make it part of, because it is now forward looking. In the past, you wrote a history of here's what we've done the last 10 years, and then you put it on the shelf and forgot about it. That's why when I got to Neosho, you start putting this into the strategic plan, into everything we're doing. So it's always in your face, because they're going to say, one of the things they're going to ask us is, what's your future? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? That's going to matter more than where were you 10 years ago. It's the academic version of a proctology visit.
1.B.1, where it discusses the bringing on of the Wamego campus. Do we need to point out which schools that we got those letters of support from?
We could list those, yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
No.
Because we
Yes.
got them from more than Wamego and Rock Creek.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a word limit on what this document can be, but
Okay.
we link it to the evidence, so we'll make
Okay.
sure that's
Yeah.
linked.
Okay,
And that's why we probably mentioned those letters, because those are in the evidence file.
okay,
But
okay,
yeah, this particular one, we have to stay around 1,000 words. The whole assurance document can only be 40,000.
okay.
So, but no, that's,
It's just
We
a
should list
question
more.
that,
And again, that's what we want. Don't
Yes.
assume, just let us know what you find.
yes.
We live it so close, we make assumptions, and that's dangerous.
It's easy to see how you guys could skim over something.
Oh,
after you've
yeah.
Looked at it so many times. Your brain kind of finishes the thought for you.
I see keywords and phrases, and I figure that's it, that's, oops.
As soon as I saw something that said human resources, I stopped.
Who is the behavioral and social science coordinator?
Marilee Williams.
Who?
Marilee Williams.
We brought her on this last year. She teaches and she is in charge of, if we need counseling for students.
Yeah, she's on our on-site counselor.
And if you have any insomnia, let me know and I'll do an audible version of this. You can listen to it.
how'd I go?
Poor Sarah, when she worked with me in Illinois, it was one of the visit we had was one of the last where there was no word limit.
If you ever want to see it, I have the book. He left me to finish.
Ran around, 600 pages?
3-inch dissertation.
And, no,
Oh my
it's-
gosh.
The evidence file we create for this, it goes into a digital warehouse with HLC that they maintain, but we also keep it because, again, more and more we're making sure we're using similar data all the time, not using things that, again, are puppy dog tail we don't need. It's building off what are we already producing. And that's one of the things we have to define for them when they, because again, from their worlds, their idea of diversity is different than ours. The same thing at Neosho and Spoon. Diversity reflects your area. While we have some of the traditional diversity, but again, how do we help single parents? How do we help older people? With bringing on adult ed, while adult ed is not formally a part of the college in terms of its programs are outside the formal academic, but the way we've integrated adult ed, we're reaching that audience, and he's doing things with ESL, reaching that audience. That all speaks to what our diversity becomes.
For the overall organization.
Right. This is something that's the equity and diversity issues are also part of the KBOR strategic plan.
I saw that.
And this summer when I was at the KBOR retreat, I presented to them information on all of the tech colleges on diversity of both employees and students. And again, you figure where some of the tech colleges are, Goodland, Emporia, diversity is pretty contained. You get to Wichita Tech, Washburn Tech, expands quickly. We're not there in terms of faculty where I'd like to be. But it's a tough one, you know. One of the things we've talked about, and I've got to give kudos to these two and Jasmine, our HR generalist, is when we do need to hire an instructor, where do we get that word out? Now with tech ed, you're looking for that mastery of that craft over an academic credential. So that changes it somewhat. We've definitely improved how we get the word out and seek to attract.
MATC is still not doing the dental hygiene program, correct?
Right.
This is
This-
last semester.
So this is okay. From that comment about the service trip to Jamaica.
That's still relevant. They will ask when they hear about how we're closing it out. And they may well ask you, you weren't on the board at the time, but for those of you that were, why did you decide to close that program? That's a fair question that they'll ask you.
Market saturation of
And it was costing us 6 figures a year.
the cost with market saturation for this demographic area. Well, I remember it well.
Yes.
In the strategic plan, under goals, there's two 1.2s in there.
That's nice.
That's your ear.
Just,
No, it's, we're gonna get to strategic plan a little later.
oh, okay. Hey, I'm
He's
doing
excited.
my homework.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's no action on this on accreditation. Again, it's just to start giving you some information. I spent the last several days drafting testimony for the legislature next week and having all the tech college presidents and our lobbyists look at it. Everybody said, it's good, it's good, it's good. And then today, one of the tech college presidents said, oh, look, let me call you. I found a few typos. Okay. But that's what we gotta have. If something doesn't make sense to you, ask us about it because we probably need to clarify it. Okay. Now let's have more fun, some good news. So let's turn it over to Nathan, who's been helping me with our new toy lab.
We all love toys, don't we? Evening, everybody. Again, my name is Nathan Roberts, and so I've been really helping Gary Maple and the facilities crew as they work on our new lab for the industrial engineering technology. It's looking awesome, and I believe we might have some pictures that we can put up instead of my beautiful face as I talk a little bit. So this is the lab. We have level 1 and level 2 Festo didactic equipment. We have 6 AC/DC trainers, 2 PLC trainers, 5 mechatronics trainers, 2 mechanical drive trainers, 2 pneumatics trainers, 2 hydraulics trainers, and then in the level 2, we have level 2 mechanical drive components, advanced troubleshooting kit for the fluid systems, and all kinds of fun little sensors and object detection stuff. So it is coming along really nice. That room is cleaned up amazing. The branding looks great. I don't know if any of you had those little science kits when you were younger, where you had the little wires you put between the springs and you could make a radio and you could make a light. This is that on steroids times. So a lot of fun stuff. So it includes safety, electrical, mechanical, hydraulics, pneumatics, robotics, programmable logic controllers, industrial controls, just all kinds of fun stuff that the students will eventually play with. So we are pretty well done with this part, and the next step is for Gary to get his training done. He's going to be doing a training in mid-February through NC3 and Festo, where he will kind of get his crash course on the curriculum and how to use a lot of the components, although he's been diving into the manuals and a lot of the written material already. And actually he's going to integrate the AC/DC trainers into his spring CET course, critical environment course. So he's going to use the equipment right away, which is pretty awesome. And then really after training, it's trying to figure out how we want the curriculum to flow. We've been doing research into some other institutions around the country who have already integrated a lot of this equipment into a program, and we just need to sit down and weigh all that out and see how we want it to look for us. And then of course the marketing, and get students there and have the great experience working with our new equipment.
Festo is a German mechanical engineering company. So by using their curriculum, what Gary gets trained for, he uses that to teach. As our students come through the program and succeed, they can sit for Festo credentials. That's pretty special.
Right.
As he mentioned, a lot of components of this will reinforce critical environment technology. It also reinforces things in HVAC, construction trades, even auto technology. Where Sarah's going to drive this is we're going to take it into becoming industrial engineering tech.
Mm-hmm.
And CET will be part of that. There's quite a demand for engineering techs in the world, and in our part of the state. Again, it's a high wage, high demand field. We'll go after more funding. We'd like to get to the next component of this down the road. This was made possible by a grant from the State Department of Commerce through the Spark funds. This is about $350,000 worth of equipment. When Gary has things up and running and is capable of kind of doing some show and tell, we will give you a tour and have him demonstrate some things so you can see it. I did take the Leadership Manhattan class through this today in the Critical Environment Tech Lab, and they were like, whoa. I said, yeah, you guys don't know what we do out here. But this is, the design with this is so hands-on. It's like I said, we're going to get kids in there, and it's toy time for them, but it's hands-on from day one, playing with electricity, hydraulics, pneumatics. Wow, I would have given up not being a liberal arts major if I had this stuff.
Yeah, gear drives and everything.
So
Did you guys do any press release?
we will when we're done.
We're actually working on a commercial.
Oh, cool.
Part of the grant, we have some funding for the marketing.
Mhm. So we're gonna.
Higher education commercial?
Mhm.
Yeah, I kept seeing.
Kept seeing it during the football games.
That was awesome.
Loved
They are,
it,
they're great.
loved it.
If you know Trent Armbrust, he's worked for the Chambers with the State Department of Commerce. Trent reached out to me this summer about this idea for the grant, worked with me. I was able to give him a lot of input, but he really was the push for this particular grant program. We're beneficiaries, so just tell Trent thank you.
Oh, yeah.
The goal is to start classes this fall.
Okay.
So once Gary goes through the training, then we'll get access to all the curriculum, then we can develop it from there.
Nathan, I got 2 quick questions for you on the equipment itself. Is there a lockout tagout portion of the program for each of those modules?
I'm going to say yes, because safety is a big component of
Sure.
that, but I can find out and follow up with you if you'd like. But yes, I do believe
It'd
so.
be one of those things that the industry would look at, that knowledge coming back out to them. And the other one, you talked about the PLC equipment is, does that also include frequency starts, the soft start equipment for like HVAC, other demographics where they use frequency drives to do soft starts on electrical equipment? Or is that may be the next step up too?
Yeah. So I mentioned, we have level 1 and level 2 equipment. I have level 0.01 knowledge about some of this type of equipment. So that's not really my background, but from the conversations I've had with Gary and how the software integrates with some of this equipment, I'm going to say yes on that one.
Okay.
I think so. Plus with what Gary's done in the critical environment tech lab and that, the different control walls, I'm
That's
pretty
where
sure we
that
can
is.
do that.
Okay.
That's where that is the CET side.
This
Okay.
lab was also set up as far as capacity to keep it small. We're not going to run dozens of people through in a year. We're going to run 12.
12, 15.
And they're going to get very intense hands-on and then sit for those credentials. What I see is besides it as a standalone major of industrial engineering tech, we're going to have the students, like I said, HVAC, construction trades, et cetera, take parts of it just to have that value-added credential.
There's also a component already created for the secondary level, so we can put this in the high school very easily once we get the program up and going.
Great.
The name of the name for this kind of a lab is mechatronics.
Can't sell mechatronics, but I can sell industrial engineering technology.
Thank you, Nathan.
No problem. Good to see y'all.
Discussion of the ends.
A few quick things from me. Harry's going to jump in later on when we get to the foundation and update you on some things. Legislature is interesting this year. There are 3 primary things they're trying to make sure they get done in case they get shut down because of the virus. Curbing the governor's power, the abortion amendment, and then tax cuts. That's what they're really focused on. However, they are slowly working on some other issues. The cuts to higher ed are significant, especially to the universities. As I mentioned, it's about a 5.5% cut, a little over $10 million for K-State. You add in the impact of COVID on their enrollment, the lack of revenue from other fundraising they do, athletics, all the alumni events. They're hurt, no doubt about it. They're hurt. They furloughed a lot of people. The 2-year college sector has more support from the governor, and the cuts I'm talking about are what the governor proposed. It's not what the legislature may finally enact. For us, the governor's recommendations are a 2% cut on our tiered and non-tiered funding. That's the basic funding we get for enrollment in our programs outside of the high schools. It hurts, no doubt about it, it hurts, but we can live with it. The cut she has that we're fighting along with the community colleges is the Excel and CTE, what we do at the high schools. We originally had, I say full funding, it's never been fully funded, but our original funding was started at over 35 million, which is where it needed to be. The governor took away $8.5 million in the budget allotment process last fall because of the low revenue numbers. So right away we were chopped 8.5%. To figure the calculation on the total cut, they put that money back in, and then here's your percentage cut. Well, wait a minute, you're cutting me on what you took away? Anyway, the overall reduction she's proposing for Excel and CTE is over 16%. And Excel and CTE is the one thing that's grown in enrollment in the state because high school kids are jumping on this stuff. So the community college lobbyist, Heather Morgan, I worked with Heather when I was at Neosho County. She's reaching out to me almost daily. We're trying to partner up on a lot of things along with our lobbyist to try and get that cut reduced. Because while this year's enrollment is an anomaly, last spring, this fall, this spring's enrollment with COVID has dipped down with Excel and CTE. The impact of the secondary schools with their varied schedules, protocols, et cetera, it's been a disaster. I think almost every two-year college has lost between 10 to 20% enrollment of the high schools. Program enrollment has stayed pretty steady, but the high school stuff has dropped. So we're lobbying hard to get that cut eased away from 16%. We actually think we're going to need the full funding, but at least we're trying to get some of it back in. As we get some more information on that, I may be reaching out to you if you're willing to contact legislators of your area to say, please do this for MATC. It would be appreciated. KBOR, a lot of interesting things. I won't belabor the point too much, but more than any of the rest of the years that I've been back in Kansas, you're really seeing the universities fighting like crazy, and they're not worried about who gets in their way, meaning the two-year colleges. They're like, you guys need to be cut more. You guys need to be cut more. We need the money. We matter more. It's almost that bad. The temporary policy I told you about, these regents, David knows one of them, Mark Hutton, real well, and Mark's been a big supporter for the tech programs. But these regents are very focused on the universities getting rid of low enrollment programs, getting their house in order, running more like a business. So as you hear people, from K-State, I don't want K-State to fail. We need them to succeed, but they are under attack from every angle. So I will keep you updated probably through some emails as the legislature cooks. I'll be testifying to the House Higher Ed Budget Committee next week. A lot of new members in the legislature, so we're starting from scratch and educating them about what the tech colleges do. And as I said, there's more cooperation and collaboration than ever with the community colleges, and that helps us. So those are the main other things I wanted to add.
Jim, I think I remember reading that the Board of Regents got $10.5 million to distribute. That was just for the state colleges, though. Is that right?
It's just for the universities and the state regents in an effort to try to keep some people. This temporary policy, as I mentioned, is going to make it hard for them to recruit new professors when that's policy sitting there. The state regents' operating budget was cut by $250,000, but they're being asked to do more, account for more. So, like I said, the tension between KBOR, the universities, and the legislature is worse than ever. So we're trying to fly under the radar and just say, look how good we are when you give us a little bit of money. Mr. Boxberger, you got rid of
everybody.
You got rid of Bernie, so you can tell us about Title III.
That's right. Sorry, I'm all choked up. Where am I at? What am I doing? Sorry, I feel like I've been on autopilot today, just reading through everything. I will probably be your shortest report tonight because, as I talked about last in the December meeting with that year-end report, we're in our last year of our project. So the closer we get to September 30th, the more boring these reports will be because we are spending all the money, projects are getting completed, and we're just wrapping everything up. From my perspective, the last thing I have that's coming up soon is the annual performance review that I turn into the USDE. It's listed on their website that will be open sometime between January 1 and March 30th. So somewhere in that time frame, I'll have a report to do. And of course, I will share that report once that is complete. Other than that, I've just been working with our admin team and making sure that Wamigo is getting set up with the new science labs and all the other really fun, exciting projects out there. And I think that's it. Jim has me kind of searching for all new grants and everything. So once Title III is over, we can see about continuing on with some new projects and new ideas. So.
That is correct. Chris has done a fantastic job with this, along with support from a lot of the other administrators. I do want to say, with the change of administration in DC, the U.S. Department of Education is just in turmoil. And so some of these things he's mentioning, the reports and things, who knows when they're going to be done and due. He may get like a 3-day notice. Oh yeah, it's open now and it's due in 3 days. We're starting to explore different ideas. With this Title III grant, we have to sit out 1 year before we can apply for another one. And once you get one, it makes it easier to get another one if you've done well with what you had before. So one of the things we've talked with Chris about is we're going to start looking at our top 3 to 4 ideas for the next grant, so we can start working on that.
I knew there was a time period we had to stay out. I just couldn't remember.
1 year.
Gives us plenty of time to grab one of Jim's ideas off his dartboard and run with it.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing that without me here. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Vice President Jacobs.
So, facility update. Talk about Wamego. That healthcare building is about 98% complete. It looks really nice over there. I'm not sure if any of you have had the opportunity to stop by. There's 2 phases to the healthcare building, and we're completing phase 1, which includes a clinical space, a classroom, 3 offices, bathrooms, and a janitorial closet. And Sarah and I are working on what the second phase of that will look like as far as classroom and things of that nature. But the first phase is about 98% finished. They put in the cabinets for the clinical space today. They're working on the sink. But it really looks nice over there. President Jim had the opportunity to stop by there with some other folks to kind of take a look at it. I believe we had
Jack Alston. Harry and I met Jack Alston over there last week, the head of economic development for Pot County. And then this morning we met with Dee McKee, the Pot County Commissioner, and they were both blown away. Harry and I will talk more about it in a little bit.
So we're excited about that. We will, as I mentioned, we'll be working on phase 2. So as far as planning is concerned, Nathan showed you the industrial engineering lab. That was part of the report, but I'm glad he had the opportunity to show you pictures because it really does look great there. And then just some of the other things updating on our campus. We presented the CARES funding that we received from the federal government, and that has given us the opportunity to help kind of switch, to help our programs have hybrid classes where they can have online classes in classroom classes. But each time we change out a smart board or install a smart board, we have that opportunity to paint that area to kind of update it. And so we're trying to brand our campus. So each time we go in a room, we're doing more branding. We're making sure everything stays consistent. So the overall feel of our campus is just, it's great. So that's currently what we're working on in facilities. Not much else since we just had our break and we're coming back for spring, but we have some projects hopefully will be coming up in the next year, replacing our lighting, painting these buildings here, the same color as the campus, finishing up the painting on the outside, just continuing to brand our campus. So.
We have received some detailed information from BBN, our architects, on a building to replace 4 of the mods on this side of campus. We'll share more of that with you before too long. Price tag is approximately $8 million, which compared to Taj Mahal's on a lot of places, that's not bad at all. It's a prefab steel. It really would give us room. For instance, this isn't set in stone. We could put construction trades, HVAC, plumbing and electrician training, maybe another program all under one roof. And people could almost see from start to finish, here's how all this links up. So we're working with them on that, as well as Wamego, as well as the Career Academy, then trying to put all that, start putting all that into a master plan. Okay. Any questions for Carmela? Because I'm going to segue right into strategic plan off of this. Do we need to take a break? Okay. So with the strategic plan, again, you've got a copy of it in the packet. A couple things. I'm going to give you one part of it, then I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and Nathan because they co-chair the strategic plan committee.
No,
Put them
you
on
and
the
Brian
spot.
do.
You and Brian, sorry.
Anything.
I'm racing too many directions, as usual. Last week, I started sharing with Carmela and a little bit with Sarah. We keep, one of the things I learned at Neosho was they called it the large expenditure spreadsheet. It's kind of that forward planning, looking at big ticket items. And Carmela's worked with that. And then I ran across a concept a couple of weeks ago called 3D budgeting. And you basically have now, which is over the next 2 years, adjacent, which is beyond that up to 5 years, and then future. And so I've started working with our large expenditure spreadsheet, dropping things in certain buckets that way, but we're going to do the same thing with strategic plan and bring that to you. The strategic plan is always changing. One of the things I've tried to get across to our employees, unlike a business strategic plan, which often is pretty set in stone, we're more fluid because our opportunities change. Doesn't mean we don't have these general goals, these objectives in the strategic plan. We've got to raise money. We've got to work on improving student performance. We have to work on how we make ourselves more efficient and effective. The how we get there is what's fluid. It may change. And so we're going to build that out with our large expenditure spreadsheet with the HLC criterion. So again, everything is aligned and linking up for you to see, for our employees to see, for our stakeholders to see. We do have a strategic planning committee. And so I've worked with Sarah and Brian on that. And I'm going to turn it over to you briefly to talk about that.
So the strategic planning committee consists of the chairs from the governance committees and administration and a couple staff. And the policy itself of why it was created is very vague. And so as a committee, we decided what our goal and our structure and the purpose of what we're going to be. And so what we're going to do is while the president puts together the strategic plan and sets our innovative goals with a very, imaginative timeline, the committee will look at each of the components and kind of assess it to decide, are we on track? Do we need to change? Does something change with the institution? Do we need to bring recommendations back to administration and to the board in regards to, do we think this is unrealistic? Have we changed directions already? Are we missing something that's in it? And so we're going to use the strategic planning committee as more of an assessment team in the sense of keeping us on track as an institution based on the plan, the creation of the plan itself.
And as she mentioned, while I think everyone would say what we're proposing to do is what we need to do, the timelines are what gets whacked. Again, COVID definitely slowed things down.
Dramatically.
Brian, let me jump. I know you're talking faculty senate in a minute, but is there anything you want to add on strategic plan from your view and faculty view?
Not really. It's just that instead of encompassing the whole thing for each meeting, we're just going to look at one piece. So that way we can make it a little more concentrated as opposed to just trying to throw it all together. And it is kind of nice. I think, again, that kind of builds our communication among the faculty and the administration and staff. So I think it's a good idea overall. And yes, all the standing committee chairs are on it along with Jeff and I for faculty senate.
So while according to the governance manual, you get updates, I think twice a year on this, you're probably going to get it more quarterly. Okay. Any questions on that?
This is a 5-year.
Roughly.
It's fluid.
How long has this 3D budgeting been around?
Probably quite a while. I read a book. I read a lot of books. I read a book recently called Imagine It Forward, and it's written by a person who worked for GE and NBC and was kind of their rogue leader, if you will. She broke a lot of glass ceilings to get where she was going. And it's a concept she used, and her book just reinforced a lot of how I think, how I do what I do. She put it in print. But this 3D budgeting, so for instance, in what you're doing now, you allocate up to 70% of your resources there for what's coming adjacent over the next few years. You make sure you put some resources into that so that you're not letting something drop off the radar. But even in future, you're allocating up to 10% of your resources because what's coming around the corner like we did with CET. Mm-hmm. So I think it gives us another way to be more effective as an institution in keeping that forward thinking going. That's my take on it. Okay. All right, Mr. Ross.
Mine might be shorter than Chris's. So, COVID update, brief update. Pretty much still have the same restrictions we haven't had in the fall semester. From that standpoint, we have about 5 active cases that we're tracking that are either quarantined or isolation-based cases. None of those students or employees have been on campus. They basically contracted it over that long winter break we had, where probably most students did, and just self-reported it prior to returning to class. So we don't have anyone that we're tracking that's actively been on campus as quarantining or having to undergo isolation protocols. But that's kind of where we're at with COVID right now. So very brief update. Are there questions?
If you keep it that brief every month, we're good.
Vaccines free.
I like when it's not double digits and it's low numbers and all that.
The nursing faculty have gotten theirs vaccines.
And the healthcare students may be, next on the list. I have reached out to the Riley County Health Director about us because of how we interact with students. Haven't heard anything back other than we're on our list. But, they did say in the news today, President Biden's buying another 200 million doses. So, Neil's done a fine job working with everybody. It was a big topic at in-service to make sure our faculty and all staff realize, this game isn't over yet. Take the protocol seriously. We have that fancy machine as you walk in, a little iPad thing, and I generally get here very early in the morning, almost as early as Carmela. I'm not wearing my mask when I walk in because there's nobody around, and that machine says, "You need a mask." And I give it the one finger salute.
And it's recorded.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Mr. Brian.
Now for the non-brief one, right? So, just like with everything else, faculty are getting ready for the HLC prep. One of the major overhauls we're doing as far as faculty senate is we're going through the policies and procedures. It's been interesting. We spent 2 hours last Friday on it, probably maybe another 2 hours this Friday, because it looks like it was literally copied and pasted from another institute. So we're trying to make it so it's more like pertains to us. So that's going to be something that will hopefully be coming in February to you guys. Another thing I know the professional development is working with Jasmine on, and that's a mentoring program that we're looking at hopefully instituting. I know we've had some new hires, and I know even today I brought in one of the instructors that will be over at Walmego. I had Sarah working on her day off to meet a couple instructors. So, texted her on a Saturday, said, "Hey, Monday, Martin Luther King Day, I've got 2 instructors coming. Hopefully you'll be there." So she gets that fun with us. But I'm hoping with this mentoring program, it makes it a little bit more seamless for the teachers when they come in, because I know even when I came in there, luckily I was in the mod that you're in right now with a couple other teachers, and they kind of guided me. So that's another thing we're working with. With Chris, I've been working with him as far as the Adult Learning Center. I've already had, in the first week, I had more students the first week from there than I did all of last semester. So we're hoping actually the instructor came over and sat and we worked with students for, I think it was 2.5 hours. And she got some ideas from me and I got some ideas from her. So we're starting to get that, interaction with the Adult Learning Center. And what I'd like to do is have a Zoom like this so that I can maybe start doing my recitations via Zoom to make it more online compatible for my students. That would be, down the road, maybe a Title III goal, just saying, Chris, that I would like to have, because with my classes, I've got more students this semester that have utilized it more as an online class as maybe even a face-to-face. I talked with the advisors, and since all my classes are recorded via Zoom, a lot of them are doing it on their own time. And it was kind of nice because even yesterday with the day off, I came in, did my lectures via Zoom. I had about half of the students show up, even though it was a snow day. And I had probably a quarter of the ones that were missing. I did an extra credit, and they watched the Zoom and sent me the extra credit problem I put in there. So it's being utilized a lot more. I'm excited about that. The other thing I was going to talk about, when we did talk about spring break, I know one of the things me personally I was worried about was starting a week earlier in K-State for Gen Ed enrollments. So with the help of Sarah, one thing we've looked at is doing 12-week courses. So we're going to implement those in, and hopefully what I would like to see is they start K-State, they maybe don't like the class, or they need another class for financial aid, then they can take some of our Gen Ed classes. So we're doing a bunch of our Gen Ed classes via the 12 weeks, along with some of them over in Wamego. And actually the teacher that I was talking with today, I was helping her build her course, so that way she's getting ready for those students at Wamego. So hopefully the 12 weeks will go. So if, maybe market it in your areas to hopefully meet those students, and hopefully we'll get some enrollments that way, because it may be something we may look at doing future wise, even just offering a couple of 12-week courses, because I think we can maybe hit that group of students that maybe misses out on a class because they don't come the first week. So any questions from you guys?
Thank you,
What?
Brian.
You always put me last. I think that's nobody wants to ask questions. Then they just want me out.
It's okay.
Great job.
Let me ask you and Sarah. We have hired a full-time communications instructor. I say replace Marlene. You can't replace Marlene, but we did bring someone here who used to be with the college. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Rachel?
Rachel?
Sure. Rachel was with the institution
Around 2013 and 14, she was on the academic side. The previous vice president of academic affairs, she was kind of her right hand. So she understood the academic side, but she was always working on her education and adult education and things of that nature.
Yes. So we posted a position. She's always adjunct for us in the summer. She's always taught online classes, composition, English 1 and 2 both. And so when the opportunity came, she sees it as a great honor, being able to step in behind Marlene. She knew Marlene, obviously worked with her closely, learned a lot from her. And so we're carrying on her legacy through Rachel. She also brings experience because she works with K-State, the global campus. She's done a lot of their marketing and reaching out to students. And so we actually had conversations today about that. She does some things in regards to graphic designing and web design. And so she's going to be a great resource. She's already stepped in, being first semester, just getting started, with some great ideas in regards to webinar series and ACT prep and things that we can do with the high schools and partnerships and bringing more exposure with them, ATC. So very excited that she's joined the team.
Glad to have her back.
It's awesome.
And she's next to me, and she hasn't left yet. So I think.
Thank you, Brian. Before I bring Harry into the conversation, one of the things I omitted, but we're going to bring it in here real quick. The composite financial index with HLC, we have to turn in an annual institutional update every year. And Carmela has calculated that. Again, as she'll explain, it's inflated somewhat because of what we're doing, but we're well above water, which is where we want to be. So Carmela, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We are definitely well above water. And the CFI, for those that may not know, is the composite financial index that institutions have to calculate based upon their operating, I cannot speak today, operating revenues, expenses, things of that nature. And it just lets folks know if you are financially sound. Are you going to be able to make it? can you continue to operate? And so I know when Jim came many years ago, it was not very good. In fact, if you get below a certain threshold, there's a red flag to HLC. They typically put you on probation. 2 years in a row, if it's bad, then you're in some trouble. We did have 1 year a few years ago where it fell below the threshold, but since that time, it's been above the threshold. For fiscal year 20, after we did our audit, I go ahead and calculate it. We're currently at 2.11, which is great. Last year, we were at 3.06. And so again, while that's slightly inflated because we had the loan for Wamigo sitting in our account at 630, that still looks good to HLC because they look at your financial index and they want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and then we're not on probation, right? So it doesn't kind of put a spotlight on us. So that is great news to hear. And so in the past 3 years, it has gone up and kind of stayed
You
steady.
want to stay above 1. That's the threshold.
1, yes.
Where does all the CARES Act and Sparks funds money come into that?
So that's going to be part of our non-operating revenues since it comes in from the federal government, but that does take into account those things as well.
The majority of that will come in this next audit.
Yes.
We are slated to get another stimulus disbursement from the U.S. Department of Education soon, and it will be approximately $600,000 for the college.
$670,000 for the college and another $184,000 for student grants.
If those funds weren't there, would we be above 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We would be for this upcoming year because again, as Jim mentioned, it goes with our audit year. So once we have our audited statements, we take, those numbers, put it in the calculation. And so if we didn't have the grant, we're not done with the year, right? So this is me forecasting. I would say yes, because even if we have low enrollment, we cut our expenses. So we make that move based upon what we're getting in revenue. So, and that's what we work on all the time. If enrollment's down, we start cutting back expenses, and then we make sure we're not, spending more than we're bringing in.
And the feds have helped as they've done more of the stimulus funds to reduce the strings attached. And now one of the allowable expenses of the funds is to make up for lost revenue. Many institutions are hurting. We are, but we're not hurting as bad as K-State, for instance.
Sure. Right.
Many of the private and for-profit institutions are really hurting. I know they're going to hit the new administration in Congress for more stimulus funds. I don't know if it's going to happen. Our intention at this point with what's coming next is to bank as much of it as we can and hold it for that next rainy day.
Especially because we don't know how next year's enrollment's going to go, especially, and we don't know what COVID is going to do. And so while this is the, year of COVID, now you have the vaccine push out, what does that hold for the upcoming academic year?
Before we go to Harry, I want to go back to Nathan real quick. One other thing that we have so many things going on, as you can tell, and I know it's getting late. But Nathan was going to talk to us real quick about something cool we have added to our welding program that even I can do.
Thanks for letting me tag back in. I had mentioned a couple months ago, giving you the preview that we had ordered the virtual reality welding equipment, 2 of them, one that we can take on the road if we want to do some recruitment events, demo stuff, and one that's more of a standalone in the classroom. We got those in. The Lincoln Electric rep came and set it all up and trained us on how to use it, and it is cool. It's going to really bridge a neat little gap in our being able to let students practice muscle memory without any consumables being used. And honestly, right now, without a real structured way to integrate it into the curriculum, which we're working on this semester, they're just going in and playing with it and trying to beat their instructor on the little demos. In fact, Mr. Boxberger came and helped us with the training, and I think you scored an 86% your first time and actually beat Blaze. Was that right? Yeah. So really neat tool.
Which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So we got another job for Chris.
Blaze's excuse is it wasn't real. The weight, tried to put into it. But I mean, facts are Chris beat him. So when we come and we do the tour of the IET stuff and maybe go into the CET lab, love to have you come in and use the VR and try that out. Even I improved from 20% to like 54% on my hand positioning. So it does work. It's pretty cool stuff.
Good update. Thank you.
And that's a good segue to Harry. Again, Harry's helping us on some things, really helping me with some of the meetings to push Wamego in the Career Academy. This afternoon, he emailed me and says, can we talk? I got some news for you from Pot County. So Harry, I'm going to let you break the news to us. I haven't even told Sarah and Carmela what he's about to say. There are certainly some strings attached, but we'll work on that.
Yes.
I was like,
He does stuff without telling you sometimes.
Yeah, I do.
All the time.
Okay, Harry, take it away.
Exactly.
It's always great. It's always great to start or end the meeting with some good news, right?
Right.
Well, and I think we also need to realize that, this information we got today is not absolute. I mean, we have to, it's never a done deal until you see the check in your hands. But I do think that one of the 5 key individual stakeholders over in Pot County and specifically Wamego is Caterpillar. And we've had some initial meetings with Paul, who runs that operation there and, is in need of welders. And as a result of that, Jack Alstead, who heads up the Pot County Economic Development Group, who I've really developed, I think, a really unique relationship with, has been very helpful with us in this endeavor. There's a really good chance that we're going to bring home about $50,000 pretty soon related to the welding program that will be very beneficial for that third building. This will be a 2-year process, probably get half the first year and half the second year. Jack also mentioned that, we've got an opportunity what their demands are going to be is they'd like to have about 25 students, in this program during that process. So I think one of the things we'll have to think through is how do we take that space with the existing welding bays and be able to make that work on a yearly basis. The unique thing about all of this is that, as part of the community foundation here in Manhattan, they've set aside some resources that'll do the match. And so that's, it's conceivable that we'll, end with $100,000 in that process. Up to this point, we've raised about up to $72,000 with the match. And so we're getting pretty close to $200,000 through this process. And we've really just scratched the surface in this whole process. There are about 15 key community leaders, key stakeholders in the Wamego area. There are about 5 of those that I think will drive financial possibilities and could bring along others. And so we'll begin the process of meeting with them. Obviously, COVID has had to play with our abilities to be able to do the
We lost you, Harry.
face work over Wamego. We'll start out with some individual, yes, question?
You were cutting out. We were just waiting for you.
Okay.
I want to say we have not, there's been no formal request to CAT. This kind of came out of the blue. So we've got to have some follow-up with them. Sarah had been working with our welding folks here. We've been making welding stations. Again, there are some limits on space. We have to renovate that building. When I met with Caterpillar probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, they said, we need more of your students to work for us. I said, you're going to have to pay more. You have to realize our welding students get primo jobs. And Paul kind of sat back in his chair and I said, I'm all for working with you, giving you all the exposure to our students, but you're going to have to sell them on why they should work for CAT and not, these are young guys. They're willing to go out and wildcat and make tons of money. They're not worried right now about a family, a home, etc. You got to sell that to them. But I think, I know Previously, they tried to work with Highland, that fell apart. I've told Paul we've done things for Caterpillar over this last several years, but they've always been a little hesitant about dipping their toe in the water. Said, we're coming to Wamego, but you got to work with me. I can't fund this on my own. So what we'll be doing next is to set up the follow-up meetings with Sarah to meet with Paul, so we can put this together in a way that we can accept their funds and that we can follow through. Okay.
I had a brief discussion with Paul in July or August, just said, hey, we're coming over here and we're looking at this program. But, you know, I don't know.
Well, and the schools over there want us to put it in.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we want to do it right. So we will take advantage of this. Again, with Harry's help, we're making more contacts. I anticipate we'll be raising more money over there. They like to hear I can bring Manhattan money. If you give me money, I match it with Manhattan money. That's a good selling point over there. So last week, Jack came over. That helped with today's meeting. Corey from Trinium, who's in charge of our renovation over there, he's on Jack's committee. He presented to Jack's committee yesterday, I think it was.
Right.
The hospital administrator, Steve Land, is all over us. But again, they're part of Via Christi, but everything's rolling along. We've got the school districts that's been slowed because of COVID as far as how fast they can buy in, but they will. And now we're getting more and more of the business and community support. Similar track here with the Career Academy. And again, it's been slowed because the school district here has been COVID, working with them. They've got their own things to work with, but we keep pushing the project. Junction City, I had several meetings in the past several weeks with the Bramlages, with Mike Gross from the school district, with Craig from the chamber.
Craig Bender.
Yeah. I think one was with Mickey Dean as well. Again, it's conversations. What I don't have there, and I've made it clear to them, I still don't have the school district on board. What I've made clear, because the Bramlages really want to help us, but I said right now, I can't bring my board a business plan that says we can make this work. I can't run any numbers. And they said, how'd you do it in Wamego? Well, the school districts fed us information so that Sarah could put together projected numbers of enrollment, and then Carmela could do the business model. I still can't do that in Junction. When we do the Career Academy, it'll be a similar approach. We're looking at what we can build on what we're already doing with the Manhattan High School. How much more will it be? So we're trying to take this as a very business approach, not just, oh, there's, you know, Bramlages want to renovate space and have us move in and rent it from them. Well, I got to show I can make the bills. But what I also reiterated to them today, we want to bring courses over there and programs that reinforce the economy of Junction City and the region. And there's a little disconnect with their school district because they think they have great programs. They do. They don't give college credit, and they don't give the industry credentials we give. So, you know, we're using our proven way with Manhattan High School, with the Wamego project. We keep chipping away in Junction. As opposed to almost any other higher ed institution in the state, other than outside of the technical colleges, the tech colleges in the state are talking about growth because the demand is there. The universities are not talking about growth. So I really appreciate Harry's help. We're setting up more and more meetings all the time. His ability to network with folks. We're going to soon have a conversation with Lyle Butler. He's interested in seeing what he can do to help us, and that's a good thing. Lyle knows people. Any questions for Harry? Harry, anything else you want to bring up?
No, Jim, I think we're good.
Sound